Right, well, I wear a number of hats in my daily life. For my sins, I suppose, I'm Sheriff of Lichfield, but that's only tenure of office for a year. But there I have a duty to uphold traditions of the city, going back to 1553 when the office of sheriff was pronounced by charter. So that's one job I do, and attend various functions and uphold what is down here, I suppose, in this declaration of sheriff. I have to behave myself in an office for the honour of the Queen and the good of her subjects, and discharge the same according to the best of my skill and power. Well, that's one of my hats. The other that I've worn for the last 32 years as the founder and principal of a school and research centre for children, for underachieving children. And the children who come here from 15 local authorities in the Midlands are grossly underachieving, illiterate really, many of them. They've made little progress in 4 or 5 years of education, and basically Maple Hayes is last in line for these children to make them literate and give them job prospects and further education prospects. So that's the other hat that I wear. And then yet another one, I suppose, is my interest in linguistics, and I've been working for the last 30 years on Lichfield's second dictionary. The first one obviously was Dr. Samuel Johnson's, and this one is called A Lexicon of Morphemes of the English Language, a grand title. But what it boils down to basically is that parts of words have meaning, which are rather incontrovertible, but applied in different cultural contexts. And we explore this, I say we because my son's joined me in this venture, and we explore this in this lexicon of morphemes, which we hope to get published next year.
Why is language so very important to you?
Well, language is so important because it can be used and exploited in many ways, twisted in many ways. But to me, there are things in language, and we call them morphemes, that are meaning units, which, as I say, are inescapable. I can give you that example of promiscuity, for example. That word means basically it's to do with mixing before marriage. Now, the cultural norm used to be that, of course, that marriage was there for life on made vows and whatever, and mixing before marriage or having sex before marriage was sinful. Well, okay, it is against that background that this word was formed. But if you use that word, you can't twist it and undo that context, that moral context. You can't get away from that. You can disbelieve it and have a different moral code, but that was framed for that moral code. And there are things in language that, as I say, you cannot escape from. And those are the things which I explore in my lexicon of morphemes.
Now, Dr. Brown, it's the 400th anniversary of the King James Bible. Just how much of an influence on the English language do you think the King James Bible has had?
Well, linguistically, it must have had a tremendous influence. I can remember reading Sir John Cheke's Gospel of St. Matthew, translation from the Greek. That was written in, 1565. And there were a lot of kind of idiosyncrasies in it. But when we got to the King James Bible, we had the best linguistic experts, really, whether they were Jewish, Christian or whatever. They were scholars, and they got together their heads were almost banged together to produce something in the vernacular of the day. And the vernacular of the day was a very, very, how can I say, polished language, which can be exploited poetically, the morality of the Bible. That they wrestled with all these problems in coming up with the King James Version. I can think of no better version of the Bible. The version of the Lord's Prayer, which we say every morning in my school, is the one from the King James Bible. And that is it. It is great.
Do you think one of the challenges that the declining church has got in England is that it's not appreciated the language of the scriptures? In other words, are we declining because we're not being honest about the wording of the Bible?
Well, I'm not sure about this, because there are things in the Bible which are contradictory with other things in the Bible. But it is the source book of Western civilization. And so a vernacular version of it, so polished in linguistically, poetically, in theologically as well, as they have tried to do, a version of the Bible, then I think it is vitally important, and we recognise it as the bedrock of basically Western civilization. So we go back to it. We go back to it for operas. We go back to it for the substance of novels, time again. So this is a source book. Yes, we don't need to go along with the fire and brimstone of the sermons of Elfrich or something like that. We don't need to rely on those aspects of the Bible. Morality, culture, everything has changed, but there are things there that do come through it, through the contradictions very often in the Bible, but come through as enduring. I think that's the best way to look at it.
Doctor, I want to ask you a technical question here, because I deal in words. I'm a proclaimer, a preacher. I deal in sermons, etc. And I'm told constantly that nowadays people can only sit and listen to no more than 5 to 10 minutes. Has our capacity to understand the spoken word diminished that much? What's happened here? Do you think that's rubbish or right?
No, I don't think it's rubbish. I think it's possibly a great conspiracy against the mass of the people. When my father was being educated in his local church school, at the age of 9 or 10, he was reading and learning Wordsworth's Daffodils and learning about the history of the country. I think education has been dumbed down over the years, and I suppose in a way it's part of my mission. I want every child to become acquainted with something of Shakespeare and the language of Shakespeare. I want a child to be able to read some of the classic novels, I think, going back to my first idea, I think there's a lot of conspiracy here and assumption, and I think if you allow these assumptions to prevail in education, then they become the norm.
I think I agree with you there. I do. Final question, Dr. Bram. What do you think is one of our biggest challenges in this country? Is Britain broken, and if so, why?
Oh.
Just a little question to finish with, really.
I harken back to the hopes over the centuries of those people in the Enlightenment, of those people in the early church and whatever. I think our problem is that yes, we can send or talk about sending the odd very, very bright child to Eton or something like that. But what about the great mass, the common man? And what are we doing there? I remember Tony Blair's mantra, education, education, education. But it didn't happen. And it's education so that people can both read and comprehend literature, what is around them. It'll be in the printed form or in other forms now, electronically, but so that people can understand and take control of their own lives through being able to come in contact with these various ideas. And my mission really is to enable children to become literate. Now, if they've got or held to have the attention span of a gnat and are only capable of taking a word sheet or a worksheet rather, and filling in the odd word from a list at the side, then that cannot be true literacy. So that's part of what I'm about, getting true literacy.
Sir, thank you so much for your time today, showing me around your school, chatting with me, making me very welcome. I so appreciate it, and God bless you.
Well,
thank you, sir.
Thank you.